John Jenkins is coming in too. Don't tell him what he's going to say. And then after that, we have Coach Ken Hatfield. We'll be doing the James Street Award, and Ken Hatfield is such a great speaker. Then we have our banquet in January. So, Gary, will you come up and lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Before I pray, I don't generally do this, but I need to see the hands of all the veterans in the room. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all. As the son and father of a veteran, I appreciate you all very much. Sure do. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today together, to fellowship, enjoy each other's company, hear a great speaker, have some good food. Lord, we thank you for these men and women that have served and for the families that are impacted by their service. Lord, we appreciate them so much, and we ask you to bless them, especially this week with Veterans Day. Lord, use us today in your service. In your name we pray. Amen.
Jason Broadwater noticed something unique in the crowd today. If you're wearing any type of vest, sweater vest, pullover vest, raise your hand. Mostly guys, raise your hand. Are we not look at that? Are we not in vest season or what? Nothing the matter with that. That was just an observation by Ann. And so if you've seen me, I just want to let you know, this has been sort of a tough year for me physically. I go for surgery number 7 today at 1:30. So you've seen me limping around. Hopefully this is the last one, and I will be back in action, back to, as I tell Jessica, I'm going to be back to my age 35 or 40 self. She says it's impossible, but I say it's not. I say it's not. So, hey, remind everybody to mute your phones if you could. If you want to let somebody know that Walt's going to be on today, they can listen on 103.7 The Buzz. It'll be live. Go to our Touchdown Club Facebook page or lrtouchdown.com. You can do that however you want to, but Walt's going to be very entertaining as he always is. Do want to thank, speaking of, 103.7 The Buzz. Arkansas Urology sponsors them every week, and Walt was just on the show with Justin and Wes. We appreciate them. The Hatcher Agency, where's Greg Hatcher at? Greg is off the walker. He's off the walker. He's on a cane now. He and I are fighting to see he gets to the nursing home quicker. But we appreciate the Hatcher Agency and Twin City Limo, Greg, for supporting the Touchdown Club. We appreciate you so much. Nobody hustles more than Greg. War Memorial Stadium. I want to remind everybody, we got state championships coming up. But did you guys know that we host the JUCO National Championship at War Memorial Stadium? This will be the second year. It's December 18th. The top JUCO football teams in America will come to Little Rock. There's no connection. But we just, again, this is something that Little Rock's bid on, War Memorial's bid on at Central Arkansas, and so we want to support them at War Memorial Stadium. Also, for Arkansas Urology, let's go live to one of their clinics right now. Let's go live.
Judy Henry had a promotional video done. Dave West had their promotional video done. Well, I want to do a promotional video for Arkansas Urology. And today, I'm in their surgery center. Missing you guys. I hope Walt's great. Talk to you next Monday.
That is R.J. Hawk getting ready to have the snip. Getting ready to have the snip live from Arkansas Urology. How about that kind of promotion? It was cleared by, he approved it. Oh, listen, all the attorneys are over here looking at me. HIPAA was there. Listen, he said he was good with it. But I got my test last week, guys. I got my annual checkup at Arkansas Urology. You guys do it too. It's No Shave November. Remember, prostate cancer is real, so make sure and get out to their place. Gail Reed Jones is my doctor. Her husband, Jesse Mason, Arkansas Sports Hall of Famer. Also, Pulaski County Farm Bureau. I want to thank Todd Dennis. Where's Todd? Todd, thank you so much for supporting the club. Stephen Reichard. Make sure and give them, it's time for an insurance quote. Give them the opportunity to quote your insurance. Good people. That's where it all starts, is with good people. Advantage Service Company. One Call does it all. HVAC, plumbing, electric. My man Kevin Brooks. Mike McClellan, where's Kevin at? Kevin, thank you so much for being a sponsor this year. We appreciate you. Make sure and use those when you have the need come up. Dairy Queen, 12th location, getting ready to open in Russellville any day now. It's a relaunch. And did want to give our Touchdown Club condolences. Nelson Lively's over here. So Nelson sent me a text that their 58-year-old director of operations, Ben Thurman, who's been to the Touchdown Club this year, unexpectedly passed away at age 58 over the weekend. And so it's a big blow. He's like a family member more than just a co-worker. And he was a big fan of the Touchdown Club, Nelson says. So thoughts are with you and his family. And hate to hear that news, Nelson, but we appreciate you. Simmons Bank Arena, I want to remind everybody, tickets went on sale today at 10 o'clock for the December 18th 2 basketball games. So where's Michael Marion? Where's Michael? You got to give it up. Michael Marion, representing Simmons Bank Arena, has his burgundy and white Mississippi State Bulldogs shirt. Let's give him a round of applause for at least being man enough to come in here and wear his Bulldog shirt. Those haven't sold out yet, but it's probably going to sell at some point, right, Mike? So you got 2 games. Can anybody tell me who Arkansas is playing? Women and men. UCA for women and Hofstra for men. Very good. So don't wait around to get your tickets because they will sell out. Right, Lindsay and Jennings. Of all the days, we have Walt Coleman here, Charlie Coleman, the longtime attorney for Right, Lindsay and Jennings is not here. Gordon Rather, you're here. Listen, you've been around longer than Walt has, and you're here. And Charlie. Where's Charlie? At Disney World. Charlie's at Walt. No respect for you. No respect. But did want to make mention that you guys, Judy, Right, Lindsay and Jennings, you represent KJ Jefferson and Devo Davis. What kind of game did KJ Jefferson have on Saturday? I know you're thrilled about that. If you have any NIL questions, Right, Lindsay and Jennings, this is a new area that not many people know about. They are the experts to go to, whether you're a business or have any other questions about working with athletes. I can't wait to see Devo Davis coming up as well. Speaking of Big Red Stores, store number 46 opens next week in Alexander. The buzz will be there. And how about your NIL guy Saturday? Grant Morgan had 1 interception and almost 2. Take that close. As a defensive player, he loved the first half, didn't so much like the second half. But what a great fit for Big Red having Grant Morgan. It was a great choice by you guys. There's one thing that Big Red's going to do is going to choose good people to partner with, and we appreciate them supporting the Touchdown Club. My group down here from Crane Automotive, they're always here. We appreciate you guys being here. Largest dealer group in Arkansas, 17 dealerships, 3 RV dealerships, and appreciate you guys taking off lunch to always be here. I don't know how you guys rotate the tickets, but we're glad you're here. We want to thank Larry Crane for that too. Wally Hall and Amanda Copley from the Democrat Gazette. Mandy, we got an unbelievable athlete today. Listen, we always say it's about stats, but I've got a non-football stat that's going to blow your mind about this young man today. We'll get to it in just a second, but we appreciate the Democrat Gazette and Amanda and Wally for sponsoring the Touchdown Club. And last but not least, Simmons Bank. David Stogstill's representing us today. David, thank you for being here. Everywhere I turn, there's a new announcement about Simmons. Either you got your name on something, and I think there's some more. I've heard through the grapevine there's some more exciting news coming down the pipe. I can't say what, but I just heard that, and we're really proud to have Simmons as our presenting sponsor and what they're doing, not just in Arkansas, but across the country. So let's give a big round of applause to all of our great sponsors. We want to say thank you to Brant Bailey here at the Doubletree. You're the best. M&M Productions, Matt Johnson. We got some great clips that we're going to show today in photos to share with Walt. It will be a blast. They're all good. They're all good, Walt. Dwayne Duncan always does a great job shooting our meetings. Of course, R.J. Hawk is gone. He's at Arkansas Urology as we speak. But Meredith Scott Hale from CareLink is here doing our social media. Thank you, Meredith. And our amazing Touchdown Club volunteer team. Our ladies and guys do such a great job. Don't get paid anything. They come up and do it every week, along with our executive director, Debbie Wyman. Let's give them a round of applause, if you will. All right, it's time for our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week, presented by the Democrat Gazette. So Lawson Wilkins is the young man's name. He's a senior quarterback at Danville. Danville, the home of Brad Taylor, one of my old teammates, one of the great Razorback quarterbacks. So this is what this young man does last week, not this week, against Mayflower. At quarterback, he throws 9 of 14 for 200 yards and 4 touchdown passes. That's pretty good as it is. Plus, he runs the ball from the quarterback position 30 times for 300 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So he has 8 total touchdowns in that game and 500 yards of total offense, and they win it 57-41 over Mayflower. Come here, just a sec. But here's the most amazing stat. 2 stats. So guess how many players are on Danville's team? 14. They have 14, so he plays both ways. And here's the most amazing stat. When he graduates here in a couple, 3 or 4 months, he will graduate with 39 college credits. He didn't have to go to college. He's already gone to college. So let's give it up for our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week, Lawson Wilkins, everybody. Great to have his dad, Paul, here. His mom, Susan. and their coach, Cody Hamlin. Great to have all three of you. You reckon that kid gets in trouble at all? Ever? Has he ever been in trouble? Matter of fact, his dad was caught passes from Brad Taylor back in their state championship run back in the day. So anyway, well, that's an impressive young man. All right, Rex, you got a lot of good news today. Let's bring him up, everybody. Rex Nelson.
Before I get started, David, I want you to know, you said you're going to get back to like you were when you were 35 or 40. I believe you. And I want you to know I'm 62 and I feel about 82 right now. So anyway, let's get to it. What a weekend. The kick goes badly left. Mike Leach announces an open tryout for kickers, and Arkansas is bowl eligible for the first time since 2016. How about that? Open tryout, Michael. I figured you'd be down there in Stark Vegas swinging that leg today. You never know. You never know. Arkansas 31, Mississippi State 28. Razorbacks drive 75 yards for that go-ahead touchdown. With just 21 seconds left, they move to 6-3 overall, 2-3 in conference. State falls to 5-4 and 3-3. That was, by the way, the latest winning TD for an Arkansas team since a Greg Childs TD reception with 15 seconds left against Georgia in 2010. So it had been 11 years since we'd had a come-from-behind winning touchdown that late in a game. Mississippi State, of course, missed all 3 field goal attempts. While the Bulldogs struggled, though, Arkansas's Cam Little, us old-timers like that name Little, kicking for Arkansas, brings back memories. He's a freshman. Field goals of 51, 48, and 46 yards. He's the first Hog since 1997 to make 3 field goals of 45 or more yards in the same game. You got to go back to 1997 to find when that last happened. Hogs go to 18, 13, and 1 all time against Mississippi State. Traylon Burks moves up, by the way, to number 8 on the career list for receiving yards. He passes Childs, who was also a Warren Lumberjack, of course. Burks had 6 catches for 82 yards, bringing his career total to 2,094. And, of course, this week, it's to Baton Rouge to try to bring home the boot. David, what do you tell them? What do you tell the Hogs? What do you say?
I don't care if it takes 1 of you, 5 of you, 10 of you, or all of you. You run and get that boot.
There we go. Get that boot. I got that boot. All right. It is now 8 consecutive losses, unfortunately, for Arkansas State. They fought a 1-8, 48-14 to a very good Appalachian State team that's now 7-2 overall, 4-1. Red Wolves with just 199 yards of offense. Like I said, a very good App State team. And Coach Jones, who was with us a few weeks ago, keeping that chin up, saying he's evaluating everything, and they'll get there. Just give him time. UCA. Scheduling's kind of tough when you're changing conferences like they are, so they actually played an NAIA opponent. Guess that's a good thing to do for homecoming, though. Texas Wesleyan, and it went about as expected, 63-3 Bears. At the half already, the Bears had 49 points. This is at the half. 538 yards of offense. Braylon Smith at the half had 410 yards passing and 5 TDs. So UCA now 5-4, finishing with 664 yards of offense as they play the Subs in the second half. And the 7-game UAPB losing streak is over. The Golden Lions beat Grambling in Pine Bluff 33-26. They're now 2-7, 1-5 in the SWAC. Grambling is 3-6, 2-4 in the SWAC. Skylar Perry, 11 of 22 passing, 163 yards. At one point in that game, I saw it flash up and thought it was a baseball score. UAPB led 3-2 at one point in that football game. But they hang on and beat their rivals from Grambling. Now, it's the final weekend of Great American Conference play. There's now a 2-way tie at the top with 1 game left. Harding and Henderson, both 9-1. Ouachita is 8-2. Other three Arkansas teams, Arkansas Tech, UAM, and Southern Arkansas, all 4-6. Henderson's David Heaton kicked a 43-yard field goal as time expired for a 36-34 victory over Gary's Oklahoma Baptist team. It was a road game for the Reddies. Henderson began that drive at the 1-yard line with no timeouts and 2:14 left after a goal line stand. Rather than going up by 4, Oklahoma Baptist decides to go for it on 4th down. They get stopped. Reddies go down and get the field goal. Their great quarterback, Adam Morse, 28 of 50 passing for 373 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this receiver, you've heard me mention all year that I tell you is going to play on Sunday, Elliott Curry, had 10 receptions for 155 yards and 2 TDs for the Reddies. Harding, meanwhile, rolled to a 55-7 victory over 0-10 Southwestern Oklahoma. Bisons rushed for 459 yards and 7 touchdowns. 6 different Bisons scored first-half touchdowns. Harding led that one 41-0 at the half. Ouachita, which of course has won the previous 3 GAC titles, fell out of a tie for the conference lead with a 35-21 loss to 8-2 Southeastern Oklahoma. So both of those schools are now 8-2. That ended, by the way, a 19-game conference winning streak for Ouachita at Cliff Harris Stadium. And Cliff was texting me while I was still on the air, David, during the 4th quarter, and wasn't real happy with that outcome. Arkansas Tech beats 1-9 Northwestern Oklahoma, 56-21 in Russellville. Senior quarterback Jack Lindsey, the transfer from Arkansas, passed for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tech led that one 35-0 at the half. Meanwhile, SAU beat 1-9 Southern Nazarene, 31-10. Freshman Jarique Scales, you're going to be hearing a lot about him in future years, rushed for 195 yards and 1 touchdown. And 6-4 East Central Oklahoma beat UAM 35-10 after jumping out to a 21-0 halftime lead. The Boll Weevils, after getting off to a 4-2 start this year, have now lost 4 consecutive games. Among our NAI and Division III teams, Hendricks comes over and plays at War Memorial Stadium, and they beat Millsaps 34-7. Line beats Louisiana College 35-33, and Kansas Wesleyan beats Arkansas Baptist 81-6. All right, on to the SEC. Texas A&M, I mean, they just continue to play well after getting beat by Arkansas. They go to 7-2 overall, 4-2 in the SEC, 20-3 in College Station. I don't think I saw a 17-point game coming in that one at all. Over Auburn, which falls to 6-3 and 3-2. The game's only touchdown, by the way, came on a 24-yard fumble return early in the 4th quarter. Auburn had a 4-game winning streak snapped with that loss. Number 2, Alabama. Looked like they might be upset, didn't it, for a while? They really struggled to beat LSU 20-14. Tide is now 8-1 and 5-1. LSU, this week's Razorback opponent, 4-5 overall, 2-4 in conference. Bryce Young passed for 302 yards for the Crimson Tide, and it was not over until the final play when an LSU pass fell incomplete in the end zone. Number 1, Georgia, they continue to roll, 9-0 overall, 7-0 in conference. 43-6 over Missouri, which falls to 4-5 and 1-4. That was the 7th time this season Georgia has allowed 10 or fewer points. They just seem the class of college football. I can't find a close second right now. Think about that. 7 times already allowing 10 or fewer points. Ole Miss goes to 7-2. 27-14 over old Hugh Freeze. He knew his way around Oxford still. And 7-3 Liberty. Matt Corral throwing for 324 yards and a touchdown for the Rebels. South Carolina 5-4 overall, 2-4 following a 40-17 victory over Florida. Florida falls to 4-5 overall, 2-5 in conference. And I heard this morning Dan Mullen's already getting rid of some staff members to try to save his own job. It'll be interesting to see if he survives that. That's the first 3-game losing streak at Florida, by the way, since 2017. Florida had just 82 yards rushing in that game. So Florida really suffering this year. Tennessee kind of coming on late. They get its first win over a ranked opponent since 2018, beating Kentucky 45-42. Tennessee moves to 5-4 overall, 3-3 in conference. Kentucky now 6-3 and 4-3. All right, so we got Arkansas at LSU, New Mexico State at Alabama, Mississippi State at Auburn, Samford, that's Samford, not Stanford as in Birmingham, Alabama, Samford at Florida, Georgia at Tennessee, Kentucky at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M at Ole Miss, that should be a good game, and South Carolina at Missouri this week. Now, plenty to choose from here in the state. First and foremost, of course, the Battle of the Ravine. Henderson against Ouachita, the only college football game in America where the road team doesn't fly to a road game, it doesn't bus to a road game, it walks across the street for a road game. Sports Illustrated devoted 2 years ago 8 pages to this game. I don't think I ever remember 8 pages on any Arkansas sporting event. If you've never been, you really owe it to yourself to go. The kickoff's at 1 o'clock at Cliff Harris Stadium on the Ouachita side of the highway. Henderson needs the win to tie Harding. If Harding wins, at least get a share of the conference title, and they'll be in the playoffs if they win. Ouachita, if it wins, might still sneak into the playoffs, so probably a playoff slot on the line in this one. You've also got Stephen F. Austin at UCA. You've got the Rattlers of Florida A&M coming to UAPB. Harding is at Arkansas Tech. UAM is at Southern Arkansas, and Texas Wesleyan, the team that just played in Conway, shouldn't have quite as rough a time. They play at Line in Batesville this week, so they go from Conway to Batesville on 2 consecutive weeks. So games in Arkadelphia, Conway, Pine Bluff, Russellville, Magnolia, and Batesville. It's going to be in the 50s and sunny. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Do want to mention real quick, where's Micah Strother? Where is she at? Where's Micah? Micah. Where's your Micah? I hear it's going to be your birthday on Friday. Happy 39th to her with the Razorback Foundation. She's always here supporting the Touchdown Club. We appreciate you. Also, one of our founding members, Nate Coulter. He's the director of the library here in Central Arkansas. So they got a big vote tomorrow. So get out and vote your conscience. But the vote is just to support the libraries, right? Yeah, so a lot of people who listen to our morning show said we should spend more time in the library. All right, this is going to be fun. Steve Sullivan always puts together a great intro video, so let's hear what Sully has to say about Walt Coleman.
Except inside of 2 minutes, and when we get into field goal.
Many of you know Walt Coleman is our NFL referee. Walt actually got his start doing junior high and high school games in the state. 14 years of that, and he moved up to college, working 5 years in both the Southwest and Southland conferences. He started in the NFL back in 1989
and was promoted to referee in 1995.
Players are known for their great plays. Officials get attention for their most talked about calls. And on January 19, 2002, Walt made a replay ruling some are still talking about. He used the infamous tuck rule to rule this fumble by Tom Brady an incomplete pass.
Viewing the play, the quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass.
I think the tuck rule is a crock of personally. Okay.
Too bad you guys screwed that tuck rule up.
That one doesn't count. That play's over with. Come on now.
You never get over that.
That'll be ever.
I'm scarred forever.
That'll be on his headstone.
During his time in the NFL, Walt worked 17 postseason games, including 9 divisional playoffs and 2 conference title games. And he's one of only 7 NFL officials who have worked 30 years on the field. Please welcome Arkansas's favorite referee and Tom Brady's favorite man in stripes, Walt Coleman.
All right, Walt Coleman. Come on, Walt. Take over that far side.
Do I need to bring my material?
Not yet.
All right.
I will say this. I will grab this real quick. By the way, somebody dropped a coin with a cross in it. So I'll have that up here. This is Walt did bring. You did bring, Walt, your NFL rule book. So if people have wondered, that's the actual NFL rule book. And you know that back and forth, you have that memorized completely.
Yes. Not now, but I did.
So I don't know if we really appreciate what was said. Matt, throw up the first photo. I want you to look at this, y'all. This is the history of the NFL. Look at that. There are only 7 people up there in that club, and Walt Coleman is one of them. Does that mean something to you? Because when I went to the Hall of Fame in Canton, there's a place, and you're right up there in this one little section for officials.
Sure, David. I mean, it meant a lot. I had no plans to stay in the league for 30 years. I was trying to get to 1 year when I got in, then 2, and then 5, and it just it worked out that I got in when I was young enough, where it gave me an opportunity to maybe hang around for 30 years. It wasn't in the works, but it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I saw some unbelievable football players in that 30 years.
And of course, obviously your dad was a famous official. You grew up with your brothers going to AIC games and going to some of those games. You got to be to
work the chain,
work
the clip, and
so at that point when you were going through that, did you go, "Hey, I could do that. I would enjoy doing this"?
No, I didn't really think at the time. When you're a player, you don't think about being an official. That's not something that's high on anybody's list. But it seemed like my dad had fun, and it was you were involved in sports and athletics, and so when I got out of college, I thought that might be something I might like to try to stay involved.
And you started in junior high school, right?
Yeah, working out at Scott Field for $7.50. People wonder why it's hard to become an official. It's because who wants to spend their afternoon for $7.50 and be abused for 3 hours? That's not high on everybody's list of things to do. So we are having a difficult time getting people to decide to be officials, because you're not very appreciated, and you do take some abuse.
So
periodically.
So you went. I think I read where you had you called it a big break in high school. Your first high school game. It was. I think there was somehow you got called up, and it was Mount. Let's see, where is it? Mountain Pine. Mount Pine and Mount Ida.
Oh yeah. That was where that was my very first high school football game, and I was on Mountain Pine sideline. I'm going to show you how talented I was. They only had 13 players, just like at Danville, and I figured out it was a whole lot easier to count the 2 guys on the bench than the 11 guys on the field. I could get to 2 a whole lot quicker than I could get to 11. So I just looked and see there were 2. I knew I had the right number of people on the field. But that was the game where the coach gave me the Bible verses that one of my stories and so forth. So Matthew 27:5 and Luke 10:37. At the end of the game, he abused me the whole game. I mean, it was my fault that they lost. I mean, as normal, but I wasn't used to that, being my very first high school game. So anyway, when the game was over, Dad being an official, he had told me 2 things. He said, "Walt, now, when the game is over, you immediately run off the field. You do not stand around and shake hands. You run off the field." He also said, "Always be sure and back your car in." Now, I found that to be even more important than the running off the field, because if you need to make a quick exit, you need to have your car backed in. But anyway, so when the game was over, I mean, I'm doing what I'm running off the field with the coach. He's chasing me off the field. And he caught me, but all he did, he just stuffed a piece of paper in my pants pocket, and he left, and I kept running to get into the big locker room at Mount Ida. As you can imagine, that was a huge facility in that Mount Ida anyway. Anyway, so the guys, I was working with some veteran guys that they were working the game, to help me out and so forth. And so they said, "Walt, what went on?" I said, "Look, I don't know. The coach was upset. He said I was the reason they were losing the game. I didn't even know what I was doing, much less could I be doing something to cause them to lose the game. But anyway, so I don't know what he wanted." He said, "But he did put a piece of paper in my pants." And okay. I said, "Pull it out. Let's see what it is. Maybe it's your critique." And I thought, "Oh, that'll be good." So anyway, I pulled it out in Matthew 27:5, Luke 10:13. and so I had no, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a Methodist. And so I had no idea. Matthew 27:5, Luke 10:37. Methodist. I had no idea what the coach was trying to tell me about the job I did in the game that day. So I turned to the Catholic and the Baptist that was on my crew. Would you believe they didn't know either? I was highly disappointed that they didn't know the answer to what the coach was trying to tell me. So anyway, so I got home and pulled out my Bible. Matthew 27:5 says, so Judas went into the temple and threw the money and then went away and hanged himself. Yeah. Went away and hanged himself. Luke 10:37 says Jesus told him, go and do thy likewise. So basically just go hang yourself. So that was my first introduction to coaches and how original they can be in communicating with officials.
So you spent 14 years in high school, 5 years in the Southland Conference, and then you graduated to the Southwest Conference for 5 years there too, where you had, let's show the picture next. It's a program. It's amazing. This is the first time I think this had ever happened in college football history, right? Where a father-son,
yes.
Major Division I football. I played in this game at War Memorial. Little did I know at the time. What do you? That's on the cover of the program.
Well, I took the program and cut the middle of it out. Might have had your picture on it for all I know.
You change it up.
Whatever picture was in the middle, I cut it out and I put our picture in the middle of the program. So.
Touche.
I put the important people that were in the game in the middle of the program.
Look at you. You're a little chubbier back then, just a little bit young. You could tell. So, what do you remember about that working that game with your dad and those few games?
I just didn't want to screw up. Dad was so excited, that we were going to get to work together. We'd worked high school games together and junior high games together. They have in Hot Springs. They used to have a junior high game between the two local high schools, and they'd always want to bring somebody in from out of town to work the game, so they didn't have any homers in the game. So I got to work. I got to work some of those games with my dad. It was funny. My dad and I, Louis Shuffle, who a lot of you probably knew, and his son Mike, and we would work the game together. As far as in Hot Springs, as far as so I'd worked some games together, but this was my very first Southwest Conference game in 1984. My very first Southwest Conference game after coming from the South. So, and in Little Rock, but so I was nervous, excited, and Dad was just excited about the game. But I just wanted to survive and not embarrass the family.
How many games together did you call?
Just that one in college.
So this is interesting. So you're in the Southwest Conference, but I read too. What was the change in Southwest Conference rules that prompted you to maybe take a look at the NFL?
Well, because what game was I working?
Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz. Those of you who've been around long enough know that Lou Holtz complained about there only being Texas officials in Arkansas games. Right? How many of you remember that? Yeah. That was because. Back then, the officials that worked college conferences only worked where they lived and they had a team. So in order to work in the Southwest Conference, you had to live in Texas or Arkansas. If you worked in the SEC, you had to live in Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, in those schools. If you worked in the Big Ten, you had to work where those are. That was the rule. So back then, all the officials were either from Texas and Arkansas, and because of Arkansas being a small state, none of the Arkansas officials wanted to work Arkansas games. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Buddy Coleman made a call at Cost Arkansas football game, all our customers would gone out the door. Quickly. And so it never was a problem until Holtz brought it up about only Texas officials working Arkansas games. See, they didn't bring up the fact that the officials could have gone to Texas A&M, or they could have gone to Baylor, or they could have gone to Texas Tech, or they could have gone to Lamar. And I can guarantee you that no official that graduated from Texas A&M is going to do anything to favor a Texas Longhorn. That is not going to happen, or vice versa. So, that's like saying that an Auburn graduate put me in an Alabama game and I'm going to help Alabama. That isn't going to happen. So unfortunately, they changed the rules. So Arkansas officials had to work Arkansas games. And the only thing that saved me and my dad was who the coach at Arkansas was. A guy named Ken Hatfield. And because of the class of that man, we didn't have to worry about the fact that we were working Arkansas games. I worked 2 homecoming games, and I'm a graduate of the University of Arkansas. I mean, you know, perception is very bad. I mean, it didn't bother me because I was going to call the game however it needed to be called. But perception, and so I knew right off that I needed to do something. I needed to officiate somewhere else. And I couldn't officiate in the Big 12 because I didn't live in one of those states. I couldn't work in the SEC. I didn't live in one of those states. So I didn't have anywhere to go. So Dad, being this typical salesman, said, "Walt, just apply to the NFL." I said, "Dad, nobody from Arkansas has ever been in the NFL." He said, "All they can do is tell you no." So I applied and got in somehow.
Yeah, let's
The rest
hear it.
is history.
Hey, thanks, Trey. 1989. Now, I did want to say real quick before we move forward. So you went into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame in 2009. Your dad was inducted in 1994. Pretty cool that father and son are inducted into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. But there's a new chapter. Matt, if you'll go to the next clip, number 3, that is Walt the Fourth. And you're going to see that monitor right there if you want to, Walt. Walt the Fourth, or I guess Walter. What do you call him? Walter.
Well, I call him Walter, but everybody calls it. He's Walt Coleman, number 65 in the NFL now. So he's popular with Gruden.
And let's make mention. Your number was 65. His number was 87.
Yes.
But when you were retired, he wanted to have your number.
He took my number. Yeah. When I retired, he had 87 when he got in the league because he was in the league at the same time I was. And so when I retired, I mean, I didn't know anything about it, but he asked him if he could have number 65. So
and then
that
the
was pretty.
listen, that is very cool.
It was special that considering how embarrassing I was and how I had to have embarrassed him some of the things that I did. The fact that he would be willing to wear my number, it was pretty neat.
Speaking of something special, look at this picture. Now tell us where was this picture taken?
Okay, we worked one NFL game together in San Francisco before he got in the league. When he was a college, they allowed college officials to come and work a preseason game. So I'd worked one game with him, and then this was my last season in the NFL in 2018, and he was in the league as a line judge, and I had asked for the last season. I asked the director of officiating in the NFL if they would allow me to work another game with Walter. And he said, sure, that won't be a problem. So this was a Kansas City Atlanta game in Atlanta that we got the opportunity to work together. And that's my grandkids. I have 4. 2 of them are from my daughter Courtney, and then 2 are Walter's. The 2 he's holding are 2 boys. And so, but that was the pictures that we took before the game in Atlanta for that preseason game.
Very nice. So, since you were at this point, you're at the end of your career. Let's go ahead. You go from 1989 to 2018. The last regular season game was December 30th, 2018. It just so happened to be at New England and the Jets. And so one of the first things, let's go to the first picture. What happened? So here's Robert Kraft, the owner. Did you know that he was going to come back in the locker room to give you that game?
Well, no, because the owners are not allowed in the locker room.
Usually.
Owners are not allowed in the locker room of the officials. There's a big sign on our door that says, positively no visitors.
And what did he say to you when he came in?
Well, he came in and just to congratulate me on my career in the National Football League and presented me with the game ball from that game. As you can see, my shirt, I don't have my shirt on because one of the guys on my crew is the executive vice president of the NFL Hall of Fame, and he wanted my shirt to go take it to put in the Hall of Fame because of my 30 years in the league. And so he didn't want to forget, so he had already taken my shirt away from me. So I had to go out to talk to Mr. Kraft without my striped shirt on. So
well, of course, we're obviously most of you know why. Obviously we'll get to it here in a minute.
Oh, really?
Yes, we will. Most people, credit Walt with beginning the New England dynasty with Tom Brady. So real quick, let's go to the next shot. This is actually during the game. How about this, that Gillette Stadium, if you look, it's sort of hard to see on there, but they show you on the screen and acknowledge your 30 years in the NFL. That was pretty cool.
That was at the 2-minute warning at the end of the game. And the funny thing is, we were during a TV timeout, and obviously there is a lot of standing around at TV timeouts. And so I was standing there by the huddle, and they put that up on the screen. And one of the offensive linemen for the Patriots said, Walt, have you really been in the league for 30 years? And I said, yeah, I sure have. He said, well, I wasn't even born when you got in the league. And I said, well, I appreciate that. And then the guard next to him said, well, I was 1 year old when you got in the league. And I said, well, guys, I have been around a long time. So I don't know if the league did it on purpose, giving me the game in New England as far as the last game of the season. I don't know, but
you wonder. Amazing coincidence.
It was really nice.
Let's look at the last couple of shots here of that game. I thought this was so. Tom Brady looks you up after the game. I think there's one more shot, Matt, where he gets a little bit closer. And they usually don't do this after a game, but Tom took the time to look you up.
No, the players. The players don't come and say anything to the officials after the game because normally we're too busy running off and so forth. But the interesting thing in this game is that Brady wasn't in the game. I mean, the game was over and the backup quarterback was in there and he was just kneeling down. So Tom had to make it a point to come out there and shake my hand and congratulate me on my career. And I told him, well, I really appreciated it and that I was happy that I was able to make his career for him.
Speaking of, let's take a look at maybe the most famous officiating call in the history of the NFL.
Blitz. Lost the football. It's on the ground. Covered by the Raiders.
The quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass.
Well, there's no doubt his arm was going forward.
Sure. But he had held up.
I think it's safe to say that this will be talked about quite a bit.
You think? This is the Patriots season on the line. The kick is away. It is good.
All right, there it is.
It wasn't snowing very hard.
So this is what anniversary is this? What year?
20.
It's the 20th anniversary, just a little like it was with Matt Jones and
2001.
Eli Manning. And so ESPN is doing a big, or is it 30 for 30, right?
It's a 30 for 30 that NFL Films is doing for ESPN, and it's going to show the week of the Super Bowl. It will not go away.
And I think we've got some shots of you looking in the booth. So when you're looking in the booth right now, what's happening? This is sort of a rare rule. What's being discussed in the booth?
Well, it's changed a lot since I first brought replay in. It's changed a lot. When replay first started, and we would go over there, the decision was all of ours. I mean, we would look at a TV monitor and. You would have 60 seconds. So you'd go over there, you'd put your headphones on, and your replay official in the booth would tell you what it is that we're reviewing. Sometimes you would know, depending on what happened on the field. And so you would go over there and you would put your headphones on, and he would tell you what's going on, and then you would go into the booth, and they'd put that thing usually over the back of your head, and that gave you the opportunity to eat your dip and chip while you were in there, And but what you had 60 seconds. Once the video started, you had 60 seconds to decide what you were going to do. Now, the problem was when the 60 seconds was up, the TV went black. And if you hadn't decided what you were going to do, that was a sinking feeling. And people say, well, replay takes a long time. Well, it's all the administrative stuff. Once you've decided what you're going to do, that's what takes long. You only have 60 seconds to decide. But at that point, it was all my decision. So when I got over there for this game and I put the headphone, it was my call to start with. I'm the one that ruled it as a fumble. I ruled it as a fumble. So I get over there, I put on my headphones. My replay operator was a guy named Rex Stewart. When I became a referee, he was my umpire. He was my umpire. So we had a really good, close relationship and so forth. And so we'd worked many, many games together. So I put on my headphones. He said, Walt, this is the game. No kidding. He said, we've got the tuck rule. I said, okay. I mean, this is my call. This is the call. This is the call I make. This is the rule I know as well as any rule out there. So he shows me the shot. He gives me a shot from the front, not from the back, which is what I was looking at from behind. And what it clearly showed is Brady's arm was coming forward, and we got hit. The ball was about right here, came out. It was easy. It was the incomplete pass. It was easy for me. It was not a difficult call. The problem was nobody understood the rule. The announcers didn't understand the rule. The players didn't understand the rule. The coaches, and for sure the fans didn't understand the rule. Because when I got home, my wife said, "Sure looked like a fumble to me." but you know, and so you know, I came out and did what I was supposed to do. I changed it from a fumble to an incomplete forward pass and made it second down. And the Patriots are still 60 yards away from trying to get. They'd only scored 10 points the whole game.
You didn't know that they would still be able to win the game at that point.
Yeah, they had only scored 10 points. So who was to think they would go down and kick a field goal? I mean, it's what happened after I changed the ruling that made this play what it is today. I just changed the pass from a fumble to incomplete. That's all I did. Tom Brady, the Patriots, and that great team, Belichick, they did everything to make this play where it is today. Not me. I just did my job.
Well, let's look at you. So, did you notice? Look at the picture here. I'd never noticed who one of the players was right in front of you. You said you had not noticed it. It was Jerry Rice.
I never really have, but a mediocre receiver.
So let's go to the next shot. I wanted to hear. So how bad was that visit before play was started again with Gruden?
It was pretty tough. He has a favorite four-letter word that he uses every other word in his sentences, and he used them a few times during that discussion. I mean, when you're talking to a coach, you're never going to win the discussion because the coach is always right. So you just let him talk. See, I'm just letting him talk. And then I told him thank you. And I went out and got on with the game, you know. And it was really interesting, the interview that I did for the
ESPN, which will probably be coming out somewhere in the next few months.
Yeah.
Gruden has not agreed to do that.
At that time, he had not agreed to be on there because he was tired of talking about it.
So Sully played a little bit of the clip. I want to play about 20 more seconds of the interview that he did with Steve Sable. Gruden, this is probably a few years after the tuck rule, but this is what he had to say, not only about the tuck rule, but officiating in general.
Since you started, what's the biggest changes that you've noticed in the game?
It starts with the rules. You know, the instant replay, rules interpretations have changed.
After reviewing the play, the quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass.
I think the tuck rule is a crock personally. Okay. Too bad you guys screwed that tuck rule up.
That one doesn't count.
Huh?
That play's over with. Come on now.
You never get over that.
That'll be ever.
I'm scarred forever.
That'll be on his headstone.
You and I, we've had dinner together. At least a half an hour is always set aside for you to talk about the officiating.
Used to be when you watch a football game, if there was a holding call, they might show the referee signaling holding.
Testing the on-field microphone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now they got their own television show. We got to put the microphone on the referee so we can hear holding offense. I see that. Number 75, the right guard. That'll be a 15-yard penalty and a first down. It drives me crazy. But if you guys do throw a flag, the film guy, he'll film the flag, and then it'll go right to you, and you'll be able to give some practice on your...
Oh, wow. I think there's still bitterness to the day he dies. Any thoughts on John Gruden?
Well, we get to go to a training camp. We're always assigned a training camp, and so I was assigned a training camp in Washington. And the coach at Washington was a guy named Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden. And so we were out there at practice, and Jay says, we've got to get a picture. We've got to get a picture. We got to get a picture together so I can send to my brother. I said, okay. So we take this picture, and so then we go on with practice. So then the next day, I come out to practice, and Jay says, hey. So I said, what? I said, well, I sent that picture of us to my brother, and his response was, I thought he was dead. So, the relationship between coaches and officials is it's a different kind of situation, so forth. They're trying to win the game. They're trying to figure out how to manipulate an official mentally and so forth to get the calls to go their way. And they think maybe sometimes that hollering and screaming and so forth, that it works. It doesn't work, but they like to keep trying. And you see it all, you see it all the time. When I got in the league, I wasn't a referee, I was a line judge. And line judge is one of the guys that's on the sideline, and you move right up and down in front of the bench. So you're in close proximity so they can visit with you, on a regular basis. And they do visit with you on a regular basis. And one of the coaches that I had to deal with was, a guy that most of y'all know, a guy named Jimmy Johnson. And unfortunately, our family had a lot of history with Coach Johnson because, we went to Arkansas. My dad worked college football, so worked his games. I worked some of his games when he was in college. And so now he's in the NFL. I'm in the NFL. And I'm on the sideline in front of him. And his comment is, I didn't think there was any official that could be any worse than your dad. But you are worse. You are terrible. And he would stand behind me. And they were playing Buffalo. And Buffalo had this defensive end. A guy named Bruce Smith. He's in the Hall of Fame. He was really good. And he would line up right on the line of scrimmage. Well, Coach Johnson would get right behind me, and he'd put his finger over my shoulder. He said, now, Walt, look at that. He's lined up all sides. Do you have the guts to call that? Well, there wasn't any. He could have been a foot off sides, and I wasn't going to call it with him standing there behind me. So, that's the kind of thing that goes on, and it's just the conversations that you get between coaches and officials, and it never bothered me. It was just what we do. It was part of if you want to be an official, you've got to deal with that kind of stuff. If you want to be an official, you have to love people when they boo you. Because it's just part of it. I mean, I could guarantee before the game even started, somebody was going to question my integrity, my upbringing, whether I had parents, whether my parents had 2 or 4 legs. I mean, I knew that was going to happen. So, why not laugh about it? So that's the attitude, I think that's the attitude a lot of people ought to take when some of this stuff
Yeah,
goes
and
on.
you still, by the way, too, you do a great job every Wednesday on 103.7 The Buzz, sponsored by Sigma Supply. Yeah, he's a star.
Well, I get
on the
great
bus.
questions.
Yes.
I mean, when the officials in the Razorback games do a good job, it's a quiet Wednesday. When they don't do a very good job, it gets a little noisier. And I just love the way fans are. And I think this Mississippi State game is a perfect example of how fans think. There was this pass interference call in the first half against Arkansas. We intercepted the ball. And it was pass interference. And I listened on the radio. Nobody thought that was a foul. That's a terrible call. That guy went through the back of the receiver, got there early. If that had happened to an Arkansas receiver, everybody would be having a fit if nothing was called. But it wasn't. With an Arkansas fan, that is not pass interference. Now we get to the end of the game, and it's 4th and 1, and they throw this pass out there, and lo and behold, somebody comes down from above and convinces that official to throw his flag for an invisible holding. I mean, yeah, see? There was no holding. All he had was they tripped, their feet got tangled up, and Bergs fell down. There was no restriction.
Do we agree with that?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If the play had been reversed and Mississippi State had 4th and 1, and that got called against the Razorbacks, I'm telling you, people would have gone berserk, and I'd have been talking on the phone on Monday about that HS call that those officials made, and so forth. But that's the thing that's what makes the game so great. People are passionate about their team, and those are the kind of things that happen. But I thought it was pass interference, and I didn't think it was a hold. That's from a officiating standpoint, not from a Razorback fan standpoint. You can obviously disagree.
Let's hit some rapid fire. I'm going to show you some. You can look at the screen there. Either way.
That's a long way.
I know.
My eyesight. I've been blind since for the last 30 years.
You can't miss that guy, can you?
Yeah. You know. No. Tom.
So focus on him real quick.
Tom Brady. He's the best. He's the best quarterback that I ever had the opportunity to officiate. I always used to say Joe Montana. I got to work Joe Montana's games when I got in the league, and I would have said Montana. But Brady is, I think he's past Montana and anybody else. I've been so fortunate with the quarterbacks that I've had the opportunity to.
Yeah. Speaking of the Patriots, thoughts on him?
I had a good relationship with Coach Belichick. If you communicated with him, you were okay. He's very smart. He knows the rules. He knows the rules better than most coaches. So I got along really well with Coach Belichick. There was probably a reason for that, but because other guys didn't necessarily have that same feeling. So anyway, I think he's done a terrific job, and people are getting upset now because they're starting to win again. They'll be trying to find out something else to pick on them about. Because some of this stuff that they've got them on is that deflate gate. That was the biggest ruse that there ever was.
All right, I want you to get that out so we'd have that on. I didn't know that.
I mean, we checked the season after that. They had us checking the air pressure in the footballs. I began to know more about air pressure and air and so forth. And I never could figure out why when it got cold, my tires on my car, would kind of get flat and you'd have to air them up. Well, I found out that footballs work the same way. Well, when we started doing that the next season, we had to chart. We had a chart, and we put down what the air pressure of every ball. Now, each team got to bring us 12 balls. So that was 24 footballs that we had to check the air pressure, and then we had to record the air pressure on all 24 balls. Then, at halftime, they'd come in there, and we'd have to check the air pressure, all 24 balls. Then when the game is over, we have to check the air pressure, all 24 balls. When it got cold, those balls would lose 1 pound to 2 pounds of air. So, I just think it was all, the NFL had to do something because they got too deep into it, but I don't believe that, heck, they supposedly were deflated in the first half, and Brady was terrible. In the second half, he threw like 3 or 4 touchdowns. I just think it was, anyway, that's my opinion on Deflategate.
You spent 30 years in the NFL. You spent another, 15, 20 refereeing. I read the story about you missing the birth of your daughter.
Yes.
And luckily you were told, the doctor had told you that it wasn't going to be that night.
Yes. Thank God.
So that was the only out with your wife. You had an excuse because you had a game to call.
Any of us that are officials, you had to have a very understanding family, because we all have regular jobs. You can't live on working high school football. or college football. I mean, you have to have a regular job, which means you're working Monday through Friday, and then you're going and working games on Saturday and Sunday, and then you're coming home. So you're gone all the time. So I was gone all the time. But this was back when I was working in the Southland. And I had a high school game in Cabot.
Friday night.
Friday night game in Cabot. Then I had a college game the next Saturday in Lafayette. So, you know, when you're trying to come up, you work all the games you can get. So we were going to work the game Friday night, drive to El Dorado, spend the night in El Dorado, and then drive the rest of the way to Lafayette because it was a night game on Saturday. So, you know, Cynthia's pregnant, and the doctor said, oh, it's not coming. Okay, good. So I go to Cabot, work the game. I'm going to come back through town to, check on everything before I head out. And I go to, she was going to stay at my parents' house, and there was nobody there except my younger brother. And he says, you're in trouble. I said, oh, really? He says, yeah, Cynthia's at the hospital having the baby. I said, oh, my goodness. So we go to the hospital, and obviously she's already had Courtney. And so I go in the room, and I say, hello, and congratulations. And I'm so excited, but I'm leaving to go to Lafayette. So then I went out and got in my car, and we drove, and we went, and I worked a game Saturday in Lafayette. So yes, I missed the. So anyway,
that was my point. To wrap up here, you sacrificed a lot, but you've had a Hall of Fame career. You got to look back and be very grateful.
Well, I'm
thankful.
just very fortunate that I got to work in the National Football League in the first place, because all I wanted to do was to do college football like my dad. I just wanted to work the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and the Rose Bowl and do that. That was all I wanted to do. But to have the opportunity to work in the National Football League, and I mean, there are a lot of people that think the National Football League is important. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I found that out real fast because they'd give us luggage and your name would be on it. And they give you pins. And I found out real fast, you don't want to have any pins on you. You don't want to have your name on your luggage because fans know who you are. And then they can discuss your calls with you. So, but I was very fortunate, and I was around great officials. I was brought up around Cliff Shaw, which nobody in this room probably knows who he is unless you're. But I mean, he was the premier football official in Arkansas, and he worked at the dairy with my dad. And so then I had my dad and Mr. Shuffle and Ronnie Underwood, the guys that worked up through the Clint Fuller that lived in Mount. These guys that worked their way up and worked in the Southwest Conference, they all helped me work junior high games. Ronnie Underwood, who was in the Southwest Conference working, he would come out to Scott Field and work a junior high game with me to help me move up, and then go work Texas A&M on Saturday. Now, that's what you call being dedicated, being a good person, And so I was very fortunate to be around, because a lot of it is, somebody teach you, how do you do it right? I figured out real fast that when you have the opportunity around people who are best at what they do in the whole world, you need to pay attention. And I was so fortunate to have the opportunity to be around people who were the best at what they do in the whole world, here in Arkansas, and then be around them in the National Football League, because they taught me stuff. Al Davis, who hated my guts, he taught me what it took to work in the NFL.
Well, it's a great story. It's a great success story. I know everybody in this room is proud of your amazing career. Let's give it up, everybody. Walt Coleman, Hall of Fame official. There he is. Thank you, Walt. Great job. Well done. Walt said he will take pictures and sign autographs if you have them.